which is easy to read because it says clearly at the top, factoring trinomials part 1.
No way.
Right?
It's insane.
Okay, this is the fun stuff. This is what I like to do. I like factoring. Okay, and this, I guess, would be part 1. Okay, now, first thing we're going to do is we are going to multiply. And here's the key. I am going to deviate a little bit probably from what the other teachers teach, because when I factor, I keep foiling in my head. I use the idea of foiling to teach you how to factor, because it's just easier for you to connect foiling. Because most students will remember how to foil for a long time, just because it's easy. Even though I know you can't foil a binomial and a trinomial. Okay, it's the bad F word, like some uber math teachers like to say. But you guys understand what foiling is, and you can apply that to trinomials as well. So the first thing we're going to do is review, and we're going to foil 5x plus 2 times x plus 5. I'm having some serious issues with that. Hang on. Okay, so let's go ahead and FOIL this. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 5 is 25x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. Whoa. Combine our like terms, which are right here, because we FOILed. And we end up with 5x squared plus 27x plus 10. And there's our answer. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Let's look at our next example. This time we're going to do, this time we're going to do x plus 4 times x minus 5. Okay? X times x is? Keep going. Again. Here's our like terms. Hey, listen, if you guys can't handle sitting back there, you're going to move up or move somewhere else. I need you guys to listen and pay attention, because while this is easy and a review, this is going to tie hand in hand with this factoring trinomials. This is where the factoring gets harder. Okay? So I need you to focus. So x squared.
Minus 20.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the FOIL review? Okay. Now, for you guys that are following along and taking your notes on your paper there, on your Cornell notes, it says we will factor trinomials using a method called rooftop. Okay? False. We will not always use rooftop in this class. Other classes will always use rooftop. I do not do it that way. There are two very simple ways to factor. One is using rooftop, is true. One is not using rooftop, and I disagree with using rooftop for everything. Okay? We teach rooftop, highly important, because rooftop is good when you go back to the first example. When you have a coefficient here in front of your x squared term, okay, because this is ax squared, remember standard quadratic, ax squared plus bx plus c. When your a term is a number, you have actual number there, then you will use rooftop. Okay? So this right here is rooftop. Okay, that's what we'll rooftop to factor. However, rooftopping this problem here is going to give you an extra step that is unnecessary. And extra steps that are unnecessary are oftentimes cause for making a mistake. And we don't want to do that. Okay, so what's the difference between this, in terms of the a value, and this. There's no coefficient, or the coefficient is 1. Okay? So, while you can use rooftop for this problem, and that's okay, we will not use rooftop. I'm just going to put no rooftop necessary. And you will see what I'm talking about in a minute. This is where I deviate a little bit. I'm very good at factoring. I like factoring. So just trust me when I show you these things. Okay, so the rooftop, you're going to multiply the first and last terms together. And when it's talking about the first and last terms, it's just talking about coefficients. So you're going to multiply 5 times 10, okay? Then you're going to find two numbers that okay, so one last time. So, for you guys that are following along, again, step 1 is first and last. Step 2 says find two numbers that add to, or find two factors that add to equal the middle term. That's that one blank, and multiplies the next blank to give you the product from step 1. Number 3 now is replace the middle term with these two monomials. Change that to factors. We're going to stay consistent with our terminology throughout this. They are monomials, but they're simply factors. So, replace the middle term with these two factors. Make sure you have the correct signs. That's true. Number 4. Group the first two terms and the last two terms together. Number 5, factor the GCF of each group, or out of each group is really what it should say.
So we mark out of and put out?
It's out of.
Oh,
You're gonna factor the GCF out of each group. What remains in the parentheses should be the same for both groups. Okay? Underline that so you understand that, because again, when you see all this in action, it'll make more sense.
So underline same of both groups?
Yes. Number 6. Group the GCFs together as one factor and rejoin the two groups from step 5 together as one. Okay. All right. Okay, now this is where we really deviate from the rest of the world. Not the rest of the world, just the rest of the teachers here. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, because we've already done the foiling process, right? To get this. But now we're going to work backwards, because essentially foiling is the doing, factoring is the undoing. Okay, so we're going to take 5x squared.
We could have just looked at the bottom.
Plus 27x plus 10. And we're going to undo it. We're going to find the factors that work. Now, here's how I teach it. I teach it in terms of foiling. Okay? When you foiled, what term is this? What?
First.
Something about it comes out and being wrong.
I don't care. I mean, I promise you, the way I'm going to show you is easy, and it works every time. Okay? And we're not doing it backwards in a sense. All I'm doing is attaching the letters of FOIL to the problem. I'm not really unfoiling, essentially. Okay? So what is this term?
First.
That's the first term. Those two, that's the product of my first terms, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So this is where the F comes in. What about here?
The O and I.
Very good. That's O and I. It's the product of, it's the sum of the product of O and I, right? So this is your OI term, is what I call it. And the reason I'm doing it this way is so you have a way to access the information, okay? And then the 10 is your L term, right? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to use rooftop for this one. Because why?
Because there's a coefficient.
Because there's a coefficient in front of the first term. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the f and the L term. Okay, so I'm going to write my own steps so that you can, if you want to write them, you can. But that way it goes kind of with the way I teach it. Okay, so step number 1 is we are going to multiply f and L terms. Okay, and again, I'm not worried about the x value. Okay, I'm more worried about 5 and 10. Okay, so when I rooftop, it looks like this. This is where the rooftop comes from. So 5 times 10 is what? 50.
X squared.
Don't worry about the x squared part. I know in the first set of steps they do that. We don't worry about that because I'll show you why in a minute. Okay? So 50. Now, step 2 is the same. We're going to find two numbers. Okay, so we're going to find two numbers. That multiply to equal 50 and add to equal the OI term. Okay, and the OI term is what?
The two middle numbers.
27. Okay, now hang on. So, what we're going to do then is this is how I write it, and generally I write on the side, but because I have my notes here, it's not going to be on the side. Generally I say, okay, here's 27. That's my goal. Okay, that's my goal. I've got to use factors of 50 to get 27. Okay? And for lack of time purposes and the fact Jefferson already figured out 25 times 2, right? And again, still use that same method of 25 and 2, and the opposite is negative 25 and negative 2. Always just go ahead and write those down. Even if you know you're not going to use it, just write it down so you don't put those out of your head. Okay? So 25 plus 2 is 27. That's what we're looking for. Okay? Now, step 3 is to rewrite the trinomial as a 4-term polynomial.
What is the TV? Rewrite the...
Trinomial. Rewrite the trinomial as a 4-term polynomial. I'm trying to write fast because we're running out of time.
You wrote D twice.
Okay, well, rewrite the trinomial then as a 4-term polynomial. Okay. So now I need to rewrite this as a 4-term polynomial. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to break up, and here's another rooftop. Okay, I'm going to break up the 27. So now I'm going to rewrite everything else. So 5x squared comes down. Instead of 27x, what do you think I'm going to write? I need 4 terms now instead of 3. So I'm going to turn this one into 2.
25 plus 2.
So plus, not just 25, but
Plus 2.
25x plus 2x plus,
Plus 10.
I'm going to erase this because we got that, plus 10. So I took 25 positive and I put it up there. So plus 25 and then plus 2. So I broke 27 into 2 terms. Not just 27, but 27x into 2 terms. Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, rather than messing with the x's and all that on the side, I just know to come back and say, okay, I'm breaking this one term up. It has to have x's on both. Yes?
Okay, so technically if you, when you factored 50, when you did the 25 and 2, you just brought that down and then did 25x plus 2x.
I don't know what your question is, but yes? Huh? Yeah, here's the deal. You had to have factors of 50. And the reason it's factors of 50 because you're taking the first and last term. And then you're taking the factors of 50 and bringing them in here.
And putting them in your BOI.
Yeah, as long as they multiply. Again, is this the same thing as this?
Yes.
Yes, it's absolutely the same, right? It's the same thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and erase this so we have more room. Now what you're going to do is you are going to group the terms.
Is that step 4?
Step 4. So you're going to group. So when I group this, I'm just going to group the first two and the last two. Okay? And when I group this, I need to keep I need to make sure the signs are inside the parentheses. See, notice I didn't leave any signs out. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the GCF.
Step 5.
Step 5, factor out the GCF. Okay, so what's the GCF here?
5.
5
5x.
x. They both share an x, right? So 5x squared
Is
5x squared divided by 5x is
x.
x. 25 divided by 5 is plus 5. X divided by x is see you later. Okay? Now, It's out. It's gone. Okay. Factor out the greatest common factor here. 2, right? They have a 2, and that's it. Do they have an x in common? No, that's okay. 2 divided by 2 is gone. And then x is by itself, it just comes down. 10 divided by 2 is plus 5. This is where it says in that one step, they need to be the same, right? That's important, that they're the same. Okay? Now, last step, bring factors together. Now, what that simply means is this. I'm going to bring, here's another rooftop, this time it's upside down, but I'm going to bring these together. And my new factor is going to be 5x plus 2. And then I only want one of the pair. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I only need x plus 5.
Does it matter?
They're the same. So you can bring either one.
Okay.
And there is my answer. Is that not amazingly the same thing as your question in A? Mind blowing. Now, hang on, don't pack up. I'm going to show you the next one and very quickly. I just want to show it to you because it's easier. This one here, I'm going to do it in less than a minute. And just follow along. X squared minus x plus or minus 20. This one does not require rooftop. If it doesn't require rooftop, all you do is this. Immediately drop down parentheses. Immediately put x's in there, or whatever your first variables are. So here, how do I get x squared? X times x, right? Boom. Just drop down your x's, or if it's p's, drop down your p's, or whatever. Now, very similar to rooftop, I'm going to take factors of my L term. So this is my L term, 20, right?
Yeah.
And I want to still find my OI term. What is my OI term?
Negative x.
Negative 1. It is not the x value, so it's negative 1. So I need to find factors of negative 20. Hang on. Find factors of negative 20 that equal 1 and equal negative 1, which is negative 5 and 4. Okay? You add those together, that equals negative 1. All I have to do is put these here. X minus 5, x plus 4. That's my answer. That's why we don't rooftop. It takes a lot less time.